The 2020 NBA draft class is undeniably different than we've seen in years past. There are no Zion Williamsons or DeAndre Aytons, no surefire prospects whose path to stardom is all but inevitable. Instead, there's a wealth of players who possess a lot of talent but could easily bust as they could boom. This is particularly the case at the guard positions, with players such as Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and Cole Anthony having caught the eye of many talent evaluators, and rightfully so. These guys are part of a crop of gifted frontcourt players who could prove to be game changers in a league dominated by league guards. But as with any other year, some players will slide and ultimately be stolen by a franchise with a keen eye for talent. This year, one of those players will be Tre Jones. Let's run the film. Tre Jones is a product of Apple Valley High School in Minnesota, of all places, where he played 5 years of varsity basketball. Yeah, that's 5 years. He started with the high school squad in 8th grade. He's the younger brother of Memphis Grizzlies point guard Tyus Jones, who also played at Duke. Don't make the mistake, though, of assuming that they're the same player. While the two are similar in some respects, Tre has blazed his own path in the basketball world. Any evaluation of Tre Jones has to start with his defense. He's a two-time Naismith Defensive Player of the Year semifinalist and the reigning ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He's got the lateral quickness necessary to keep himself between his man and the basket, and the reaction time needed to recover quickly. He's also pretty multifaceted, able to filter guys to the rim protector when asked, like you see here, or live on an island and deny the basket altogether. Most importantly, Jones is a relentless competitor. Watch him step up to the challenge of taking on Cole Anthony all the way up court. The greatest defenders always seem to have an unrelenting source of energy, and Jones, he has that in spades. I mean, hell, look at this possession against Florida State. He's just about everywhere, finishing with a closeout. He's also pretty solid in help defense, though there are times where his size gets the better of him. And he's got this great habit of closing out without laying out, something we know the James Hardens of the world really take advantage of. He does have these momentary lapses where he gets too distracted when he's expecting a screen, but for the most part, expect phenomenal defense from Tre Jones. Oh yeah, and the dude has lightning quick hands. I mean fast. Think John Stockton, think Gary Payton. Don't get it twisted, the dude will absolutely rip your favorite point guard in this draft. Overall, I'd say Tre Jones probably projects to be one of the better defenders at his position the very second he enters the NBA. Let's just take a moment of silence real quick for this guy's ankles. Gone too soon. Offensively, there are some areas in which Jones needs a little bit of work, one of which being finishing at the rim. And this isn't to say that Tre is a bad finisher by any sense, but there's some things he could work on. There are times where you can tell his size gets the better of him and he can't finish above guys that are a little bit bigger than him. Sometimes he has this tendency to want to fade away from contact, making for some pretty difficult finishes. One of his areas of immediate improvement will be using what size and leverage he does have to create separation from his defender, making for those finishes to be a little bit easier. This is something that we see a guy like Kemba Walker or Kyrie Irving do very well. I also think he'd be well served to continue to work on using that third level of the glass, that upper part of the backboard, to help him finish over these taller defenders like we see him doing here. He also has this tendency to dribble himself into a spot on the low block, which can sometimes put him in an awkward position. That's not of too much concern to me though, more just a habit that he has to break. The most glaring hole in Jones' offensive game, however, is his three-point shooting. He doesn't project to be that great of a scorer at the next level, so he'll have to be able to provide some floor spacing for the guys who do get the buckets. Let's be honest, shots like these, you gotta knock them down. To Tre's credit, he was able to raise his three-point percentage from 26% to 36% between his freshman and sophomore seasons, so he is improving. It's the consistency that he has to work on moving forward. His shooting stroke is solid and he shoots around 77% from the free throw line, so if I had to put some money up, I'd bet on his getting better from beyond the arc over the course of his career. He does have a pretty decent mid-range shooting game though, able to use his tight handle and quick first step to get to his spots, which are generally around the elbows. This certainly isn't something whoever drafts Jones will be leaning on, but it's a good skill to have in a pinch. He's also able to use the threat of his mid-range jumpers to create lanes to the rim, like we see here. But like I said, scoring isn't really what Jones adds on offense. I hate the term true point guard because it's somewhat of an outdated concept, but Jones definitely fits the mold of a classic floor general. Before anything else, he's looking to pass the rock. Jones is a gifted playmaker in a variety of ways, starting in the half court. And And this past season playing with Vernon Carey, he was able to display a particular knack for entry passes, an underrated skill for guards today. Jones clearly understands where the space on the court is and how he can get his big man in position to where he can utilize it effectively. He even has the IQ to create the space. This is one of my favorite plays from his tape. Watch how he looks off the backside help, opening up Vernon Carey for a layup. Wow. And even though the PNR isn't something at the forefront of Duke's offense, Tre did show some flashes of being a pretty good pick and roll ball handler. With his skill set, I think given more repetitions and opportunities, he could work very well with the rim running big in the pick and roll. He's able to quickly hit guys on backdoor cuts, find them in the corner when they're open, force the defender to make a decision and then react. It even makes some nice off-schedule plays. Jones's best playmaking, however, is done in transition. Again, he has a distinct aptitude for recognizing where the open space on the court is and will be. This skill only gets magnified in the fast break, where Tre is able to use every tool in his bag of tricks to get his teammates open opportunities. I mean, just look at this dime to Cassius Stanley. Yeesh. It would definitely behoove whoever drafts Jones to emphasize a run and gun style offense when he's on the floor. I could see him fitting in well with a team like the Wizards or the Lakers, teams that like to get out in transition but could use some help at the guard position. Overall, Tre's offensive game profiles very similarly to that of Elfrid Payton of the New York Knicks, a guy of similar size and quickness who also struggles with his jumper but makes up for it by creating scoring opportunities for his teammates. Payton is probably a bit of a better athlete between the two, but I will say this: don't underestimate Tre's hops. The biggest thing that I took away from watching Jones's tape is that, simple and plain, the dude is just a guaranteed winning player. He might not have the upside of a LaMelo Ball or an Anthony Edwards, but he's a guy with a high floor that will help you win basketball games. And in a draft filled to the brim with volatile prospects who could flip or flop, that assurance holds great value. Tre Jones will be one of the steals of the 2020 NBA draft, and if you need any more convincing, well, tell me you don't want this guy on your team.
Matthew Hurt and Alex O'Connell positioned.
Got the miss. Jones, can he get a shot off? Yes! Jones knocks it down to tie the game as the horn sounds.
Just amazing.
I'm Reagan Griffin Jr. This has been Run the Film. Make sure you go like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time.